I'm sure by the time my first video on this issue has gone out and circulated, I would probably have been misunderstood, or maybe an argument of mine might have been misconstrued. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to play a few video clips. These video clips are going to guide the conversation, and you're going to hear from video game reviewers at Digital Foundry. I guess Alex himself, he's the one that's on all three because I think he prioritizes the PC port reviews and a lot of the PC reviews. And you're going to hear his estimation specifically on the PC ports of a few games. You're also going to hear what he actually credits to this particular kind of performance, on these games. So let's go ahead and start with this particular one from Horizon Forbidden West on PC.
Performance, there are two things to report here, and they're all about the lower end experience on the Ryzen 5 3600. Here, generally in the game world and nearly all the cutscenes, that CPU is CPU limited above 60 FPS with very good frame times. So this older, lower end CPU can get a great 60 FPS in this game most of the time. I say most of the time because I did interestingly find out that there are certain moments, such as in large combat encounters, where more enemies could cause the Ryzen 5 3600 to dip below 60 FPS into the upper 50s. This is very reasonable given the CPU in question, but I was actually very impressed when this was happening. Usually when CPU limited and there is a lot happening on screen, game engines become much more wild in the frame times that they're producing. They start to stutter more when you subject them to torture like this. Here in Horizon Forbidden West though, even when CPU limited and even at the heaviest CPU moments, the frame times are normal looking and they are similar to one another, which leads to relatively straight lines on the frame time graph, and subjectively that means when you're CPU limited in this game, it leads to surprisingly smooth performance, and this is something you definitely do not see in other games. I don't know what they did here, but bravo Nixies and Gorilla.
So apparently the developers at Nixies and Gorilla are enigmas. They actually make games that perform very well. In a world where the conversation right now, and I'm seeing this happen, these folk are about to try to say that the PC platform is not good because of bad PC ports, especially y'all PlayStation fans. You see, I'm a PlayStation fan too. You have to be very careful when you say some things around me, because I will think about it from not only the PlayStation fans' point of view, I'll also look at it from my PC perspective as well. It's fun to be able to play on both platforms. I'm not going to lie. It's fun to be able to see the nuances and the differences. I do like them. But one thing I've been doing as well is paying attention to the way the conversation has been going all this while. And in my opinion, I think something is missing from the conversation. And some people are refusing to acknowledge that every time a PC port is good or bad, the praise or the dragging has to go to the developer. It is not inherently about the platform, because I've told y'all before that you have 60 FPS games on the Switch. They were able to bring, I can't remember, I think it was Diablo 3 to 60 FPS on the Nintendo Switch, or Diablo 2, I cannot remember. MK11 and MK1 are on the Nintendo Switch. They do run at 60 FPS, which is a bravo to the developers themselves. But I'm not done. That's just the first of the clips that I want to play for you. Here's another one from Marvel Spiderman, the PC version, that was actually shared by the same individual who was talking about its performance on the PC platform. I hope you enjoy.
Now, beyond that negative note, I want to positively say, though, that Spider-Man overall on PC is good. It scales really high in meaningful ways above the console version. It offers a great user experience in terms of features and menus, and for my money, I think it has the best RT graphical options we've seen in a AAA game. You have a lot of settings to customize RT, and I think almost every game should do that.
So, unless you want to blame Alex of being a PlayStation fan, I don't know how you can get away with it, but he appears to be in favor of the performance, which from a metrics perspective, you really can't say anything against the work done here. It's, hours and hours of testing and a lot of work done to basically bring this information. And his conclusion is that this PC port is actually meaningful and actually scales in many ways better than the PlayStation version for a PlayStation game. Oh, wait, there's another one. You see, I was clipping these and we were having these conversations about some other stuff last year in August. So I got these clips and I actually messaged them to myself, as receipts. I didn't know that this was the day that this was going to come full circle. Let's hear what he also concludes with God of War 2018.
So that is it in the end. God of War on PC is in general a spectacular version of the game, offering meaningful graphical options that scale wonderfully above the PlayStation version of this game. Performance on the GPU is generally very, very good, but CPU performance is a bit rough at times when loading new areas. That is something I would really love to see improved in patches.
So yes, the version of God of War 2018 is also a great version. No one ever argued that the issues that we saw was based on the platform. In a time where it was convenient to actually, applaud the PlayStation developers and even those who were making the ports, it was easy for us to be able to easily say it. Nixxes does a phenomenal job when it comes to their PC ports. There is no doubt about that. And even some of the other, studios that have also helped PlayStation in their ports also do a phenomenal job. And those ports, or I guess I'll call them builds to be more precise, those builds run very stably and they don't have any problems inherently with them. But somehow, when we see a game like Silent Hill 2 actually start having issues, I start seeing folk on the console side try to levy the blame on the PC platform. I don't think you you believe me, but I just made an entire video on this particular, topic, and I was so shocked that somebody said that they could, in a sense, go ahead and point out that the PC was a problem, and if it wasn't a PC, that developers will get it right every time. Well, developers are of different caliber. They have different, experience. They have different levels of requirements, and they have different circumstances. Not saying that one developer is, worse than the other, but I do know that at the end of the day, a team like Nixxes is working under different circumstances. For the most part, the game has already been made, developed by, say, one of the PlayStation primary studios who've basically done the game and made it for one platform. A company like Nixxes gets access to what I think are files, assets, and the code, and their job is just to ensure that the PC version does very well, which they spend significant amounts of time just prioritizing. They have all the resources they need. They're not bothered or taking, aback by any other contracts or any crunch or whatever it is. It's literally the dream job to be in Nixxes' position compared to, say, you are working in Ubisoft and now you got to crank out the Series S, the Series X, the One X, the One S, the cloud, and then the PC from the AMD side, then the NVIDIA side, and all of these versions at the same time. So given enough time, I think a lot of developers will be able to get you a really good PC build as well as the console ports. But what's going on is a lot of developers look and say, okay, what's the easiest, or I guess I'll say, what's the lowest common denominator when it comes to optimizing our game? The simple answer is the console. I know I have 30 million Xbox Series whatevers, right? And I could just optimize here and I'll have the game ready for 30 million people all at the same time. From a logistical perspective, that's a yes. Even me, myself, as we're looking at, console development as well, whenever we can put our applications in, we're definitely going to be trying to get our game secure for the console versions. No doubt about that. First, however, you got to get the PC version right, especially when you're an indie dev. So then after doing that, I intend to sit there and cry until we can find somebody who can technically help us, do all of our optimization in a way that it also works for the PC flawlessly. It's going to be hard because then now I got to deal with a lot of that stuff. And I think I figured out the common denominator with the way it's done and the way you can do it effectively. You do it like the way the Japanese developers do it for the most part. They lock it all to 60 FPS and they don't give you any of these other, fun stuff if they can help it. Maybe that might work. I'm watching other developers and publishers actually try to do this, and even they are struggling. So I may be screwed at the end of the day, right? But I believe that as engines and as technology continues to move forward, we're going to start seeing some major changes. One thing that's also underlying is many people may not want to admit this, but developers are still learning a lot about Unreal Engine. I would say the only studio that has what I think is the most knowledge about Unreal Engine is Epic Games themselves. They literally build the engine, and everybody else is second party in terms of that. In fact, I think one of the funniest things that happened with Unreal Engine 4 was there was inherently this code base that was inside of the engine. And for the most part, nobody really knew what it was doing. But Epic Games had written it into the engine. It was called the Gameplay Ability System. And what they used it to make was they used it to make Paragon, which eventually they used it to make Fortnite. This was an entire RPG system that came with all kinds of fun stuff where you can basically go in, do some preset code. I think altogether about 70 lines of code, and you can set up your health, your stamina, and your, a lot of different cost systems that RPGs use. This is a very simple system for anybody who's actually well versed in programming. Apparently, this was sitting in the engine and nobody knew what it was. As people started to ask and try to figure out what it was, Epic Games came out and said, yeah, this is an entire system that will help you build an entire ability library for your RPG. We're going to help you figure out how to use it. And then that's when they started doing some more stuff about it. So I believe you me, that there's a lot in the Unreal Engine and the pipeline and the way things are done and best practices that a lot of studios don't have access to. And they probably have to reach out to Epic for the most part to go and help them or send somebody to help them actually figure out a lot of this stuff. And if they don't have those resources, then they're still stuck with what it is that they have. So you're going to see these challenges for engines like Unreal Engine, but in the place of PlayStation, for the most part, you're going to see much more quality PC ports, or even in, say, other pipelines like Ubisoft or even Rockstar, because their engines are established, their processes are established, and they already kind of have a way of doing things. Their engineers have, basically been able to create solutions for them over time, and a lot of that is done in-house. And so when you see a lot of developers also who may have in-house engines moving to Unreal Engine, is because they want somebody else to manage that external support. And they feel like that's going to be better for their pipeline, like CD Projekt Red moving away from the Red engine and trying to move to Unreal Engine right now is because they want Epic Games to kind of take a lot of that, and knowledge in Unreal Engine is starting to get better and better and better. I hope this video was informative, and I hope it was able to clear what I think is a lot of the misconceptions that want to crop up, that, oh, the PC ports are bad because, the PC platform is bad, when PlayStation is literally winning in terms of performance compared to everybody else. I mean, we just played God of War Ragnarok and Final Fantasy, 16, both on PC, and the Ragnarok build is just much better. I can't imagine how somebody would look at that, and an audience member of mine basically concluded that it's because the PC platform is bad, when we're looking at these two games and saying, what are you talking about, man? The PC version is much for Ragnarok is better than the PC version for Final Fantasy 16. And the developers that actually did the ports, Jetpack Interactive, I think they were the ones who did the port for 2018. I take that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I actually misconstrued that. They were the ones that were going back and starting to do their patches more recently, and they still had some things that they needed to put for 2018, but they never really went ahead to prioritize that because it didn't feel like it was a big, huge issue. Those games came out stutter-free. They came out without any major hassles, and they were beautiful ports. Oh, sorry, beautiful builds. The ports are the console version. The build is the PC version. But I'll stop here. Talk to me in the comment section. Appreciate you guys so much. Peace out.